The world had not ended with an explosion or a scream. It had simply rotted away. 6 years had passed since the zombie virus had swept across the globe, devouring civilization one city at a time. Survivors were rare, and safe havens even rarer. In the snowy outskirts of what was once a thriving countryside, a secluded villa stood hidden in the wilderness. Inside lived two unlikely survivors, a sharp-eyed boy named Jim and his little sister Lily. To any wandering soul, they might seem like innocent children holding on to scraps of their old life. But in truth, their survival skills and secrets made them far more dangerous than most adults left alive. Jim and Lily spent their days playing games, seemingly oblivious to the eerie shapes that sometimes lingered beyond the sliding glass doors. For years, they had managed to remain hidden from both the undead and the living, sealing themselves inside each night as faint growls and scraping nails tested the villa's defenses. The glass was bulletproof, the doors fortified, and most importantly, there was a safe room, a place only the two of them knew about, the secret that had kept them alive for so long. One winter afternoon, a battered pickup truck rolled up the driveway. Jim, gripping what looked like a toy gun, stepped out to greet the newcomers, a man named Jack and a woman whose smile was as warm as it was untrustworthy. They asked the question that always came first: "Where are your parents?" Jim didn't answer. The man simply smiled and said they would be back another time. That night, Jim and Lily locked every entrance tighter than usual. Outside, zombies prowled restlessly, their dead eyes searching for a way in. By morning, the siblings were safe again, and Jim checked the magazine of his toy. It wasn't a toy at all. The next day, the same truck returned. This time, the couple's tone was more forceful. Jim lied, claiming his parents had gone into town for supplies, but the woman's smile turned calculating. The nearest town was hours away. Offering to protect the children until the parents returned, they stepped inside, quickly noting the stocked pantry, working fridge, and well-maintained living space. Jack volunteered to hide their truck in the woods, as though they were avoiding someone. That night, Jim overheard them whispering in satisfaction about their new shelter. Without a word, he led Lily to the safe room, locking themselves away. The next morning, Jack made breakfast as if he owned the place. Jim kept his expression calm but whispered a cryptic warning: "It will be over before you know it." When night fell, Jim asked softly, "Is it time?" His dog sniffed him and gave a subtle nod. Without hesitation, Jim locked Lily inside the safe room again and went downstairs. Meanwhile, the woman glanced outside and spotted zombies crouching near the window. She switched off the lights, thinking she was safe, but the door behind her creaked open. Moments later, Jack found her on the floor, blood pooling beneath her. Neither intruder was seen again. For Jim and Lily, this was routine. They had dealt with dangerous humans before. Not long after, a long-haired stranger named Dan appeared, tracking traps in the snow back to the villa. Before he could speak, a tranquilizer dart struck his neck, fired by Jim. When Dan awoke, the boy was waiting, gun in hand. Dan explained he was a former Special Forces soldier searching for his wife in the north. He wasn't interested in their food or shelter, only in recovering his weapon. Jim agreed, on one condition: Dan would help power the villa. The house ran on a treadmill generator, a system that required constant effort. Over time, Dan earned a place in the children's cautious trust. He discovered their mother, Melanie, was a security agent away on a mission, and their father, a scientist, had been missing for years. But one locked storage room still remained off-limits. When Dan eventually opened it in frustration, he found a blanket on the floor and claw marks raking the walls, a cell for containing something dangerous. His unease deepened when armed intruders arrived, circling the villa. Dan acted quickly, pulling Lily from view before they could see her. After the attackers left, Jim returned Dan's weapon in gratitude. Dan considered leaving, but after a dream of his wife calling to him, he offered to take the children north. Jim refused. He was determined to wait for Melanie's return. But before the discussion could continue, the gang from before returned, snatching Lily while she played outside. In the chaos that followed, two robbers were suddenly gunned down, not by Dan, but by Melanie herself. In the rescue, Dan was shot in the chest and collapsed. When he awoke, his wound had completely healed. Melanie explained the truth. Some infected retained human intelligence along with the physical abilities of zombies. They could heal rapidly but risked entering an uncontrollable frenzy. Dan was one of them. And so was Jim. The claw-marked room was where Jim locked himself during his frenzies, detected in advance by his trained dog. The couple Jim had killed earlier had been victims of such a state. Melanie's story grew darker. Jim had been born with a fatal heart condition. His father, desperate to save him, injected him with the zombie virus, turning him into a special infected. But in Jim's first frenzy, he had bitten his father, who turned into a regular zombie and had to be put down by Melanie herself. Life in the villa continued, but one day, the dog barked twice, a warning. Jim locked himself away, and screams echoed from inside. As Dan kept watch, Lily suddenly collapsed from a heart attack. With no medical help, Melanie refused Dan's suggestion to infect her like Jim. They let her go peacefully. After the funeral, Dan left to resume his search for his wife. Far away, Melanie's enemies were closing in. The white-bearded militia leader known as Whitebeard had been searching for the couple that once occupied the villa. Finding their abandoned truck nearby, he came to question Melanie. Dan, camping in the snow, spotted the militia heading toward the villa and rushed back. Inside, Dan and Jim joined forces, taking down the militia in silence, until Dan, surrounded, cut his own neck, triggering a frenzy. As his rage took over, Melanie grabbed Jim and fled. Dan slaughtered the intruders but drew a horde of zombies to the villa. By morning, the house was in ruins. Dan found a letter from Melanie. They had gone north. If fate was kind, they might meet again. With a faint smile, Dan slung Jim's favorite doll over his shoulder and began walking into the frozen horizon, following the only road that still mattered to him. And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you never miss a video. Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.